Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Retirement Planning Strategies for Law Firm Owners, Darren Words discusses the importance of planning your retirement. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Okay, finally, let's move into our third area, which is preparing for exit and why you should perhaps start thinking about and preparing for exit now, today, right? Okay, first, a few notes on why succession planning is important. Now, you probably know this already, but I just want to hammer these facts away here because there are many reasons to do succession planning. It's not all about the amount of value you can extract from your firm. For many folks, succession planning is really about doing the best thing they can and providing a value and a legacy to their employees, to their community, and to maybe their family as well. Here's some things. Number one, succession planning is important for taking care of your clients. You may have heard of horror stories. I have definitely heard of plenty of horror stories of law firms where the owner passed away unexpectedly and had no succession plan in place. And then it was a huge mess and a huge disruption to the clients' lives. So if you really want to be a fiduciary for your clients, you really want to do the best thing for your clients, and you really want to maximize value, the value of your practice, you want to have a succession plan in place. Taking care of your family, that's critical, right? If you have poured all kinds of blood, sweat, and tears into building a law practice and building a business, and you're not able to harvest the value of that business for your family could be missing out, and it could be very devastating to them to be and obviously, most places, law firms have to be owned by lawyers. So if something happens to you and your spouse is not an attorney, your spouse is not going to be able to inherit that business and come in and continue operating that business. So that's very critical to think about. Taking care of your staff and colleagues. For many of us, our staff are like family, right? They're like a second family to us. The employees we have, the partners we have, and we want to make sure that we're doing a good job by them and taking care of them. Your ethical obligations. Yes, very, very important. Ethically, it's important to have a succession plan, even a contingency plan. And really, there's two ways to think about succession planning. You might have an emergency contingency plan that's in place right now. And maybe then you also have a long-term succession plan for what's going to happen long-term with your business and how you're going to strategically exit your business. Ethically, it's important to have that short-term contingency plan just in case something happens to your clients. That has happened to us in the financial planning realm after 9/11. Really, in 9/11, a lot of financial advisory firms were destroyed when the Twin Towers collapsed. And as a result of that, the financial regulatory authorities decided that financial firms needed to have contingency plans. They needed to have succession plans in place. As I mentioned, sometimes in many states, in many jurisdictions, succession planning is now even mandated, some form of it. And finally, of course, the reason we're here today, and the reason succession planning is important for you and for your retirement, is that your practice does have value that is potentially transferable. Okay, so really the big thing that we want to think about, and the big point that I want to make here, is that transition-ready firms are the most valuable and the most profitable. I'll say it again. Transition-ready firms are the most valuable and the most profitable. So here's the ironic thing, and here is the reason why you want to do exit planning now, why you want to create a culture and a firm that can run independently of you. Not just so that you can one day harvest the value that you have created, but also so that you can maximize profitability. It just turns out that exit planning is actually just simply good business strategy in action. So let me demonstrate how that works and how we would do exit planning in real time. So there are three main core areas you need to think about when putting together your retirement plan and putting together your exit plan. There's the business, of course, and we've talked a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to create a transferable business. I'm going to give you some ideas on that. The personal financial, that was what we covered in step 1, right? Making sure you have, know your wealth gap. You have a plan on how you're going to close that wealth gap, either through how much you need to save to get there or how much you need to build the value of your practice to get there. And then the third one that's really critical that a lot of people are not thinking about and talking about is the personal side, not the personal financial, but the personal side personally, right? The mental and emotional side of things, because retirement and transitioning to something different is difficult. It's very, very hard to do. In fact, studies have shown that most business owners who sell their business regret the decision afterwards. And you don't want to be one of those people, right? So don't sell your business don't sell your law firm, don't retire unless you have properly addressed all 3 of these areas. Okay, so first, let's talk about improving your value and preparing your firm, preparing your business for exit. These things I'm going to show you, this list of items here, is not only going to prepare you for exit, but is also going to improve the value of your practice and actually going to improve the profitability of your practice as well. And, another one I'll throw on there, these things are also going to position your law firm for growth most effectively. Okay, so number 1, here's some steps for you to follow. Create a long-term vision. Do you have a long-term vision for your practice, for where you want your practice to go? Where do you see your practice 3 to 5 years from now, 10 years from now? You need to have a very specific, well-defined long-term vision for where you want to go. There's a often quoted scripture that says, where there's no vision, the people perish, right? It's so important to have it written down, to have a very clear focus on where you want to go with your business. And then you should be reevaluating and revisiting that vision on a regular basis. Number 2, once you've developed that vision, it's going to give you clarity. And from that vision, then you can break that down into specific goals and specific action steps that you can take to maximize value and achieve that vision. We want to work backwards, right? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? What size of law firm do you want to have 10 years from now? Okay, and what do you want the characteristics to be? What do you want the number of new clients to be? What do you want the revenue to be? What do you want the profit to be? Now, let's work backwards from there and create very specific goals and very specific action steps that we can take to get there. Then third, you're going to execute. And that's where most business owners fail, is the failure to execute, the failure to turn these plans into action. Is your business plan sitting on a shelf collecting dust somewhere? Maybe. If so, and that's the case for most business owners, it's time to break it out. It's time to get it out. It's time to put it into action. It's time to execute. You need to execute relentlessly. If you're a law firm owner, you want to build the value of your practice, you need to execute. It needs to be put into practice. And this is where a lot of law firm owners potentially struggle. We're so busy dealing with clients, we're so busy dealing with administrative stuff that we don't have time to step back and execute on the plans that we've made. So it's so critical to actually set aside time for these things. Set aside a quarterly meeting with your staff, monthly check-ins, where you're going to actually look at these action items and say, okay, where are we in getting these things done? Where do we need to get to? You need to set aside a day, at least once a year, where you're going to spend time away from the business and away from the day-to-day demands and really think critically about these things. Take a vacation, right? Go to a beach somewhere and walk and just think about where you want your business to go. And I'm going to pause right here because I do see a question in the Q&A. So let's check out this question. All right, so one of our attendees wants to know, if it's just me, should I focus on referrals rather than selling my whole practice? What if I don't want someone else using my firm's name? What a great question. Yeah, so to this attendee, there's no right or wrong answer, right? It can be up to you, and actually, yes, you raise a good point. That is another way to potentially kind of sell your practice, is to serve as more your client's consigliere, right? And to help manage their overall legal affairs, but to refer then the actual work out and share in those referral fees. So a strategy like that might not be a bad one, right? It really just depends on what exactly you envision for yourself, right? So I can't answer that for you, right? That's a question that I can maybe give you some guidance on and help you kind of explore a little bit further, but you're going to have to answer that for yourself ultimately in terms of what exactly you want the future to look like. Great question. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to our value steps. So in terms of increasing the value of your firm, here's where you want to begin and the trajectory in which you want to go, right? We start, the basic, most elementary step that we can take to increase value without a lot of cost involved is de-risking. De-risking is number one. We start by de-risking, and it doesn't mean insurance, okay? We take some steps to de-risk the business. And as we move up this continuum, we're moving into things that cost more money, but also have a higher effect on the business. Then we move into strategy, right? Strategy for growth. Then we move into efficiency, right? We move into how do we streamline our processes? How do we create workflows and create intellectual property? Then we move to growth. And finally, culture is last. And why is culture last? Because you don't create culture. Culture happens. Culture happens as a result of leadership over time. So culture is going to occur. It's going to happen naturally over time. You can't start with culture. You can start by trying to address culture, and try to encourage a certain culture to form in your law firm. But you can't make a culture happen. A culture happens. But here are kind of the main categories to work through. The first most basic step, if you want some quick wins to position your firm for more growth and also to add value, de-risking is number one. And then we move to strategy. So let's talk about de-risking and some of those steps. Here are the key business risk areas that you can begin addressing right away. And if you address these, you will add so much value to your firm. Number one is customers, right? Your clients. Your clients are a big risk area. And the number one thing we think about in client risk is client concentration or customer concentration. I was just talking with one of my clients earlier this week, and we were digging deep into his business. And what we found out is that 80% of his revenue, because he's in civil litigation, 80% of his revenue comes from two clients. And of those two clients, 60% comes from one client. That's a huge risk. That's a huge red flag. So we call that customer concentration. We have a huge thing that we need to do. We need to diversify the customer base. Sounds easier than it is, but that is a huge problem for a potential buyer, right? That's going to be a big red flag. So customers, number one. Key people, and really retaining your key people, because your staff are a big part of the value of your business. Your high talent folks, these are not just attorneys, but even admin staff. You have a fantastic administrative assistant. I have an amazing administrative assistant, and I don't know what I would do without her. She is excellent, and she knows my business inside and out. Those key people are tremendously important, but also represent a big risk. So how do we think about reducing that risk? How can we encourage employee retention? Some other risks to think about: business interruption, technology, disruptions to the technology that you use, cyber crime, cybersecurity, partner disagreements, owner dependence. And that's probably number one for most law firms, is dependence on the owner. So we want to focus there. That's going to be a big one. That's more of a strategic long-term solution or a problem to solve. But trying to make the firm and the business independent of you would be a really big goal for us to address. Compliance and legal, obviously, of course, as well. And loans and debt can be a key business risk area also. I got a question from our audience. Do you provide fractional CFO services? Thank you so much for that question, Karina. We do not provide fractional CFO services specifically, but I have partners that I bring in to work with clients. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can talk about that offline for sure. And great question, because as you move up and as you expand your business, having a CFO, having a fractional CFO, and then those are key members of your team. So one of the things that we do for our clients is to help curate that team, that advisory team that's going to help you and help take your business to the next level. Okay, next slide here. So biggest value killers, and these are ones you want to really watch out for as a law firm owner. I mentioned owner dependence. That's a huge one, of course. Some other ones are lack of documentation. You know, a lot of times as business owners, everything lives up here in our head. We've got to get it out of our head and written down and documented and solidified and saved somewhere in a database. And sometimes that can be really hard, but that's a key area that we can begin in the work of value acceleration and the work of value building, and working with your team to try to improve that. Lack of transferable, scalable systems and processes that goes along with lack of documentation, and customer concentration, mentioned that, and management and retention. We mentioned that as well. Yeah, so these are all really big ones to watch out for. The biggest ones, I think, for law firms. Okay, once you've kind of come through the business side of things, you want to also think about personal preparation. I mentioned that. And here are some big things to think about. Your mental and emotional preparation. It's a huge change to go from working 40 hours a week to not working at all. And if you're going to make that shift, you need to be sure that you are ready for that shift. It's important to have purpose in retirement. So actually, one of the things that you might consider is hiring a retirement coach or a life coach. You know, somebody who can help you really dig deep and think about how you're going to find purpose in the next chapter for you. And of course, there's financial preparation, right? Here are some key areas that you want to watch out for to be prepared on the personal financial side of things, right? Here are the biggest risks to your retirement, especially if you're transferring all this law firm value into asset value that you're going to invest, right? A sudden stock market drop. Make sure you have a qualified investment plan, a quality investment plan, and you're working with a qualified professional to help you design an investment strategy where that's not going to be a risk that derails your retirement. A bear market where the market just doesn't grow for a while. Investment returns that are not quite what we expected. Some other maybe possible risks, reduction in Social Security income. A lot of people are concerned about that. Long-term care expenses, higher inflation, that's becoming a bigger concern more now these days, and premature death or living longer than expected, especially in a couple situation, right? Where one spouse predeceases the other by a significant amount of time. That can create a very big disruption to your financial plan, especially when it comes to taxes and Social Security income. That can make a huge impact. So that's something you want to really be careful to plan for. And these are all things that we help folks plan for as well. Okay, so finally, as you are thinking about this for yourself, you want to begin developing your professional advisory team. Don't do this alone. Make sure that you have a team around you. And as financial planners who work with law firm owners, we help to curate and to create and work with this team. So great question about CFO. If you have a CFO, if you don't have a CFO, we're going to help you find one, or we're going to help you find a CPA who can give you really good numbers, because you have to have really good numbers. And then we can work with those numbers to work on value growth and how we grow the business and grow the value of the business. So these are some of your key players you want to have on that team. A financial planner, a personal retirement coach, perhaps, an estate or tax attorney. Now, I know you're an attorney also, right? Why would I hire an estate attorney when I can draft my own will? You know, that's a good question, but I think you probably know the answer, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you want to make sure you have quality people helping you. A CPA or a tax planner or even a CFO if you're at that level. A value growth advisor, and that's where we can come in and help you as well. We serve as the financial planner and also as the value growth advisor to help you improve and the value and profitability of the practice. And when you get finally to the stage of maybe selling your practice, a business broker and maybe even a valuation, well, you definitely will need a valuation expert once you get to the stage of selling your business. So I want to thank everyone for listening today. You've been a great audience. No, really you have. And I do want to give you an opportunity to get a free copy of my book, The Lawyer Millionaire, the complete guide for attorneys on maximizing wealth, minimizing taxes, and retiring with confidence. Simply hop on over to thelawyermillionaire.com. And the link is there. If you're in the Mentee, you can click the link or you can just type it in. And on that page, you can sign up for an introductory call with me. If you do that, I will sign a book and pop it in the mail for you. So they are available at the ABA, but if you want a free one and a signed one, hop on over to thelawyermillionaire.com and go ahead and sign up for your introductory call. I'll be happy to talk more with you about all of these concepts and how we can, create an action plan for you around your specific law practice. Okay, and so that kind of brings me to the end. I'm happy to entertain any questions, and there's my contact information. Again, on the web, you can reach me at thelawyermillionaire.com. My phone number's there, and email address as well. Feel free to reach out by email if you have questions, and happy to chat with any of you.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.